So yesterday, the UFC just announced three really big fights. They announced a welterweight title fight between Leon Edwards and Colby Covington. We're finally getting a new light heavyweight champion between Jiri Prochazka and Alex Perreria, and we're getting a new flyweight title fight between Alexandre Pantoja and Brandon Royval, the rematch for the belt. I was going to go over these three fights. These are really big announcements. Two of these I think we've all been expecting. The Leon Edwards Colby Covington fight. I mean, it's been hinted at for quite a while. I don't know why it took so long, but it's finally happening. Jiri Prochazka, he's finally back from his shoulder injury, and he's going to take on Alex Perreira. That's a really exciting fight. Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. I saw a lot of people on social media that weren't super happy about that fight. I think it's a great fight. A lot of people really wanted Brandon Moreno to get another title shot for some reason. I don't think that should have happened. I think this is a much better option. So we're going to go over these three fights. I'm going to start with what I think is the most exciting one, which is the welterweight title fight, Leon Edwards and Colby Covington. So in the build-up to this, for a long time, I was kind of leaning toward Leon Edwards, but as it's gotten closer, I'm actually kind of leaning toward Colby Covington. I know Leon looked really good in his last fight against Kamaru Usman, and he proved that he was better than Usman. But Colby Covington has a very different style of grappling to Usman, and I think that's what's going to be the problem. I think Colby Covington, he puts on such a ridiculous pace, and he never stops shooting takedowns, and I don't think Leon Edwards is going to land that head kick again, you know. And outside of the head kick, he doesn't get a ton of finishes. I mean, if you look at his highlight reel, every time he fights, the UFC puts out the exact same highlight of his from way back in the day, his only finish before the Kamaru Usman finish, really. And Colby Covington is tough, and he's not easy to finish, and he's going to put on a brutal pace with the wrestling. I think he'll just shoot takedown after takedown after takedown. He'll mix in the striking a bit. I don't think he'll play too much with the striking with Leon, but I kind of see him just, for lack of a better way to put it, he'd pull a Marab on Leon Edwards, if you remember what Marab did to Petr Yan, where he just kind of failed takedowns over and over and over and over again, and Petr Yan couldn't get him off, and I kind of see that happening in this fight. That's kind of what my brain's telling me, but at the same time, my heart is sort of telling me that won't happen. Part of me feels like Colby is just destined to never get the belt, but I don't know. I am leaning toward him, but it's really hard to say. I am rooting for him, though. I'm a Colby fan. I know a lot of people don't like Colby. I think he's funny. He's super cringy, but I think he's funny. So I hope he gets the win. Jiri Prochazka versus Alex Perreira, though, that's going to be a really good fight. And that's another one where my brain and my heart are not telling me the same thing. My brain is telling me that Jiri is a wild man who gets hit all the time and gets hurt in every fight. And Alex Perreira has a nuke in his hand, and he should just knock out Jiri Prochazka, because Jiri gets hit in all his fights, but for some reason, part of me just thinks Jiri is gonna survive somehow, and he has crazy KO power too. He finishes all, but I think he's finished every single one of his opponents except one, which is crazy, and he's more experienced, he's really tough, and he's not the best grappler, but he did grapple with Glover Teixeira for 5 rounds, and he didn't get submitted. He ended up submitting Glover, so he's definitely leagues ahead of Alex Perreira in the grappling. I don't think he's going to grapple, which is why he might lose. If he chooses to grapple, I think he would just win. I think he's really big, he's really strong. If he wanted to, he could take Alex down and probably beat him up and maybe submit him. I think it's going to be a striking fight. I think it's going to be over very early. I could see Jiri going crazy, doing his weird movements that he does, and walking right into a straight right from Alex Perreira or a head kick. Who knows? You know, he might get a spinning, like a wheel kick to the face. He might go out cold, but I think he's going to win. I kind of see him just going crazy, and he'll probably get hurt multiple times, but I think he'll just wade through the fire, and I think he'll hurt Alex, and I don't think Alex Pereira has as good a recovery as Jiri, and Alex doesn't seem to have the best chin ever either, and so I think he'll hurt Alex and just kind of bully him over to the cage, which I know sounds weird because Alex Pereira is massive, But I think Jiri is a big enough and strong enough and imposing enough person to kind of bully Alex around maybe a little bit into the fight, second round or something, and unleash punches against the fence and finish him. That's what I think is going to happen. I'm probably wrong, but we'll see. And the last fight is Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. They've already fought, and I think this will be a really good fight, and I think it'll be closer than the first one. But I do think Alexandre Pantoja is going to win, and I think he's going to win by submission. I think most people are probably picking him to win. I don't really see how Brandon Royval wins other than some crazy movement or maneuver. You know, he might throw a flying knee. He might get a submission off his back. He might throw a spinning elbow or something. You know, anything could happen, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Alexandre Pantoja is going to throw a ridiculous amount of punches, crazy volume, kind of wild. I think he'll probably get hurt on the feet at some point because Brandon Royval is also wild. But I think once he gets his hands on Royval, it's pretty much over. I think he'll get his hands on him. I think he'll drag him to the ground. I think he'll take his back. And I think he'll submit him with a rear naked choke pretty early in the fight also. I probably would say like a third round rear naked choke for Alexandre Pantoja. Yeah, I don't really see how Brandon Royval wins that fight. Anyways, so we got two really good cards though. UFC 296 is Leon versus Colby, and Pantoja versus Royval. So those are like a really good main event, really good co-main. It's the last card of the year. That's pretty exciting. And then 295 is Jones versus Stipe. Poor Stipe. And the co-main is the light heavyweight title fight. Which I don't know how I feel about that, actually. I think having John Jones on the same card as the light heavyweight title fight kind of makes the light heavyweights look bad, I feel like. If you have Jones there who dominated the division for so long, he could just like write off all the light heavyweights they're fighting and say, well, I'm still king, basically. But yeah, it should be really cool. Let me know what you guys think of the fights in the comments. If you made it this far, which you probably didn't, but if you did, then maybe leave a like. Unless you hated it, then leave a dislike. If you want, you can subscribe. That'd be cool. Yeah, I'm gonna work on making higher quality videos and trying to learn to edit video and stuff. But until then, you can deal with this. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.